Welcome to Construction Genius. This is Eric Anderton. My guest today is Tats Nakagawa, COO and founder of Castagra products, and they help contractors solve difficult roof coating challenges. And he is also the host of the Specified podcast, where he interviews leaders about overcoming adversity and growing massive organizations. The topic of conversation today is social media. Tats has been an advocate and a user of social media platforms since 2004. He has a very good presence on LinkedIn, and we talk about specifically how you can use platforms like LinkedIn and Instagram to promote your construction company. There's a lot of very good tactics that we share and strategies during this interview, so you'll want to pay close attention. And the key is here: if you hear social media and you immediately want to turn off the episode, don't, because social media can be used by your organization in a wonderful way to promote your business and to give people an opportunity to get to know you in an authentic manner. And we'll talk about how to do that during this interview. So enjoy my interview with Tats today. Listen, what I'd like you to do is to share this interview with other construction company owners if you could, and also give the Construction Genius podcast a rating and a review wherever you get your shows, particularly on Apple, because that helps to amplify the reach of the podcast, get more people listening, and that would be totally awesome. This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. Tats, welcome to the show. So good to have you with us today.
Well, thanks for the invite.
I'm very, very excited to talk to you because you are someone who has been involved in social media since 2004. What kind of social media was around in 2004?
We didn't know what the winners were, but I've always been interested in lots of stuff that's new, just about to break. I always think that there's kind of two ways of becoming an expert at something. You could spend 20 years grinding away at something and to become an expert, or you could jump on something new and then just work really hard at it. So I've always liked the idea of catching a trend. One of the things, there's a few hundred social media platforms trying to establish each other, but there's three that were really interesting, and LinkedIn was one of them. So I doubled down on three, and yeah, it was fun. I met some really cool people that
That's great. So now your company, Castagra, you guys supply coatings to the roofing and flooring industries. And so you kind of have an outsider's view of the construction industry. And so I'm curious, from an outsider's perspective, what are construction companies doing wrong when it comes to their social media activities?
Well, there's some companies that are doing a great job, but I think there's still a lot of room for companies to come in and, establish themselves on social and really sort of make a dent to grow their business through that channel. I think that's quite sort of not explored to the full extent.
And so why do you think the construction companies aren't good at social?
A lot about social is about sort of talking about your company in many different aspects, the business aspect, the personal aspect, and it requires you to sort of open that conversation up and allow, various people within the company to sort of engage the public. And I think if you had a very kind of tight communication strategy, the more traditional approach where you want everything to look a certain way and you want to control what people say, it's tough for that to occur. So there's a great deal of trust that has to happen for that. And it's a bit of a culture shift. So I think certain companies that have tried it in the past, they've underestimated or not approached it from that point of view. And they thought that if they could put someone that's an outsourced hire and then put a few things online, that it was going to do something.
Okay, so what you're saying then is in order for social media to be successful, it's something that really has to come from the company itself and have a combination of both the business and the personal.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that we learn is that, ultimately we want to do business with people that we like. Right. And we can talk about, what we do as a company all day long and be a human brochure, but what makes us interesting, what allows us to connect to people and establish deep relationships is the things that we learn about people that are outside of the office or work environment. So being able to sort of mix that in, and so people can get a feel the culture, what values the company has, and being sort of able to sort of show some of the things that maybe aren't as perfect also. That vulnerability is what's required to truly connect with people, especially in digital, right? When you can't get those sort of subtle sort of cues, right? Where you would have where you're standing in front of someone face to face.
So why is it now when, there's a lot more remote work happening at the moment in the United States and around the world? Why is now a great opportunity for a construction company to dive into social if they haven't been there yet?
Well, I think with the current challenge, there's two ways that people are looking at it. One way is they're thinking, okay, when is this over so we can go back to where things were?
Right.
But I think the big opportunity is take the mindset that, these are permanent changes and doubling down on a direction of being able to be very good digitally so that, if there is issues like this in the future, that you're going to be ready. And I think companies that sort of have that mindset will be in a great position, skilled digitally as well as in person, because that still has to happen, but will create that full toolkit so that, who they are online will be the same they are face to face, right? So there's that kind of authenticity, it's like,
right.
Wow, we learned about you online, and when we interacted with your people on the phone or we met face to face, that you were exactly who we thought you were. You're an awesome company.
So let me ask you this. This is just my personal perspective. One of the things I'm sick of at the moment is when I turn on the TV and I get all these commercials from these major corporations talking about how much they care about people and we're all in this together and all that. In my mind, I'm like, I'm sick of it. Just shut up. How would you suggest then, with your experience in social media, a construction company who's deeply affected by the COVID-19 and the social distancing, and that just affects the way they do their business, how would you suggest that they handle their messaging around something like COVID-19 without coming across as like virtue signaling or preachy or something like that?
Absolutely. I think just giving people an inside view, like an accurate as possible inside view on some of the challenges that are occurring and some of the ways that they're addressing it. The things that are on people's mind. I mean, one of the areas that I really love studying, like honestly, I'm not a great writer, but it's copywriting. And one of the things they teach you in copywriting is to anticipate the questions that are coming up. So, okay, you put on a good face, like where everything is cool, we're looking good, full steam ahead. But if inside there's a bit of chaos, that's going to come out. I mean, people are all on social. Your employees are on social. They have ways of disseminating information. So to be more sort of honest and upfront about that without sort of, gloom and doom or something like that is kind of builds credibility and trust, because people know that it's not perfect. So let's not put ourselves. Yeah.
That's actually quite good there, because I think a lot of what I see in social media these days, especially from corporations, is they're so polished in their presentations that what you're talking about in terms of building trust or in terms of that likability, to me, it's not really there. I can understand if I'm a company, I don't want to be putting out my warts and all that kind of stuff. I need to be able to balance that. And that seems like it's a tricky thing to do.
Yeah, I think one of the more successful strategies of doing that is using personal brands, right? Ambassadors, and so that the brand interacts with the company and it weaves in and out of that. And then, trying to be consistent with that is probably the best way. But
what do you mean by, hold on, what do you mean by a personal brand? What does that mean?
Personal brand is that you find people within your company that are great with technology that sort of reflects your core values, that, and then can communicate to people and sort of pass on messages or interact with people and be upfront. And to get a handful of people on board that are good with that.
Okay, so now this is really important, because I can just see my audience here. I know my audience, some of them are, longtime construction CEOs and presidents. They've been in the business for many years. They've been deeply successful. And when you say social media, they say, just whatever, because I got to go out and I'm going to get the next job, or I've got to figure out how we're going to navigate this next crisis and this next challenge. But I think it's really interesting there, that idea of finding people in your organization who are comfortable in social media and represent your core values, and then allow them to brand themselves personally on social media platforms. Am I hearing that correctly?
Absolutely. It's like any construction project, right? You try to fill the right person in the right seat, right? So I think a lot of times with social, a big company will go, hey, I'm just going to hire some freelancer to do it. And then they'll put a bunch of stuff out and there's just no passion behind it. Like, the person doesn't care. He's getting paid an hourly wage. Oh my goodness. I just schedule 10 of these up front because, I don't want to deal with this later. Like, it doesn't communicate that. If you take someone in the company that just loves it, and usually it's those people that already have active accounts and they're already doing it, right? They're kind of like away from the brand, but to pull those people in, hey, do this for us, and then make sure they're the right person, but let them run with it, right? And just watch them go.
Okay, so now I think this is interesting right here, because if you think about social media, sometimes what the way people think about it is they think of it strictly in terms of business development. But I think about it in terms of, if you think about getting to know the company. And when it comes to construction, I think of the first part of the business, obviously, is you've got to bid work and win work. Then you've got to build the work and plan it and build it. And then you've got to get paid for it. So I just thought that it would be very interesting for a company to look within their organization and to ask themselves, do I have someone in estimating who's passionate about social media? Do I have, let's say, a superintendent or a project manager or even a foreman? Because I know some of the best social media I've seen on LinkedIn is when you've got a guy or a gal who's actually in the field posting about stuff that they're doing, and you really see how that company's actually operating when they're building a project. And then if you have someone who's doing the billing part of the business, the more sort of technical blocking and tackling support part of the business, and they're passionate as well, that can really give you a full picture of what your company's all about and portray that on social media.
Exactly. And these people are already doing it. You could go to their personal accounts and they have tons of followers. They know exactly how to communicate to reach people. And you know what? If you told them that you're going to bring them in, give them a slight raise, give them the ability to brag about how great their teammates are, because they're usually very positive people, and be a hero within the company, they're just going to jump up and down. Like, it's a win-win.
And I think that's another thing for the older generation here, guys like my age and above who, maybe they have a little bit of social media, but maybe not a lot. And they've got to know that the younger generation are extremely comfortable with social media. They've been on it their whole lives. And it's perhaps more natural for them to share personal aspects of their life. Whereas, someone who's older perhaps would be more sort of corporate in their approach and not quite as genuine.
Yeah, I mean, to put it this way, imagine if a company did not have a phone number to call, right? So in the new age, not having a active and responsive Instagram page, or, LinkedIn contacts, or even Twitter, or these other methods, is going to be the same as not having a phone. Right, in certain regards, because everyone likes to communicate in a different way. Maybe they love Instagram, and when they interact with people on Instagram, they'll share all the information, they'll develop a bond with the company. So having multiple lines of communication is huge, because you can work with how people want to communicate, and everyone favors a different platform.
Okay, so that's an interesting analogy, is to look at social media in the same way you would look at a telephone. Because, I mean, I know CEOs and executives in companies, they wouldn't do anything without their telephone or without their email. And obviously, social media, what you're saying then is another communication means.
Absolutely. And then think about it another way. Like, let's say you go to the CEO and say, look, I have an event. It's awesome. It's filled with your ideal customers, right? This event happens, once a month. If you go there and you talk to everyone, there's a good chance you're going to get, $100 million project. The
Right.
CEO isn't going to say no to that, right?
Right.
But why is it that, on social media, there's that same group, you can find people, you can look at their pattern behavior, you can understand what their interests are. It's the same thing. So why would you not go to that event? Why would you not put yourself in that situation to be present in the room? Showing up is a lot of times what's required to get in the game. So why would you not show up where your customers are, your opinion leaders are, the sort of people that refer business to you are?
Okay. So let me ask you this. You mentioned Instagram, you mentioned Twitter, you mentioned LinkedIn. Okay. So in your experience, what are best platforms for a construction company? And I know you're not a construction guy, but you're looking from the outside. You do work with construction companies all the time. So what would you recommend for a construction company to look at?
I think definitely LinkedIn and Instagram are probably the best ones to start. I think from there, if you want to get more advanced, you can sort of go a little bit further, but I think you definitely need a very active and engaged presence on those two.
Okay, so tell me why LinkedIn? Why LinkedIn?
Well, I mean, LinkedIn is a huge B2B platform. It's easy to find people on there. Your team members are on there. I know a lot of companies that kind of actively sort of get people on that platform and to engage on that content. So it has a huge ability to go to right to the people that can make a decision. Why you'd want to get to Instagram is if you can find someone that would be very good on that platform. People are a bit more personal on Instagram.
Yeah.
So you can go a lot deeper with a relationship, and it just that hybrid. Facebook, I think for me, it's kind of out. It's kind of drifting a bit. But I think for Instagram, I think there is a lot of upside in platform, especially when people are sharing their family photos and stuff like that. They're in a different mindset. You can get into someone's trusted sort of mindset if you're on that platform.
It's interesting. Do you think, I want to hit both of them here. Let's talk about LinkedIn real quick.
Sure.
In your experience, is a company profile a place to leverage, or is it more the personal profiles of your employees that you should be leveraging?
Definitely think the big opportunities is in the personal profile.
Yeah.
I've seen certain people do an exceptional job of engaging their client base. I mean, the LinkedIn algorithm is clear, right? So you post something compelling, interesting, adds value. If it is, think about it in terms of, will someone save it? Would someone share it? Right? What LinkedIn does initially after you post it is they release it to a small percentage of your contact base to check for engagement. Once they check that it's getting some engagement, then they'll sort of open up the organic reach further than that. So you really have to think about what sort of quality and consistency of content you put on there. But people that get it, they get it really well.
Okay, so let me ask you, other than obviously having great content, which is necessary, how is it that I can work with the algorithm of LinkedIn in order to boost the stuff that I'm sharing?
Well, if you have a whole bunch of team members, like let's say you have your LinkedIn page, right?
Right.
Then you have all your employees subscribe to that page.
Right.
And if you post good content and you're a good company to work with, they're going to like and share all your content.
Right.
So essentially, you're turning a bunch of your people into salespeople, right? Because they're adding to that organic reach. So
Sorry, but that's just a key thing right there. You're turning a bunch of your people into salespeople. So then I'm the CEO, and I'm thinking, okay, great. I'd love my people to be salespeople, but on the other hand, I still want them to do their job. So how can they balance that?
Well, I mean, obviously, if you see someone just doing social, maybe convert them so that's their job. Do you know what I mean? Maybe you put someone else that doesn't like social, but you put the guy that's on the job just doing that, and they're a specialist. That's perfect. Another way I think, opportunities for CEOs is to be a CEO of a $1 billion construction company. And then he uses social to engage his frontline staff and, promote culture and, showing that he cares and really sort of bonding with them. Like, because, workers, like his organization's big, right? I think he's got about 3,000 employees. But people in the front line are posting stuff, and he goes there and he just thanks them, and then he just gives them a high five and basically proves to everyone that he actually is taking the time, he's caring about it. They're not a employee number, right? That they are part of the team. And even if you never pass each other in the office or out in the field, that he's there with them on the project.
Which platforms is he engaging with his employees on?
He's doing it on LinkedIn. He's doing a great job.
Interesting. That's terrific. So then going to Instagram is obviously a much more visual medium than LinkedIn, and it's based around photographs. And then they've got Instagram Live. Is it called Instagram Live?
Yeah.
With the short videos. So would that be a good place for people to be experimenting with, perhaps posting some of their job site videos and things like that?
Absolutely. It's really easy for people to do. And I think, people that like working with their hands, they're proud of what they do, right?
Absolutely.
And it's easy to encourage that. Maybe you can have a contest within the company who has the best job site photo, and then they can hashtag the company, and then maybe you can select the winner of who wins that contest. They're promoting the company's projects, but also, the employee is getting a chance to be involved in something that's competitive. So it's kind of a win-win. It's kind of bragging rights too, right? Within the company. Hey, I took the best photo. I did the best project. Our crew's the best. Maybe that's, the culture thing, right?
So let me ask you this. How should I, as the leader of my company, how should I be measuring success in terms of my social media engagement, or what sort of expectation should I set? Because it's easy to say, okay, I got to do social because everyone else is doing it or something like that. And then you try it and whatever, it doesn't work. Help us with goals, with expectations, things like that.
Sure. I think, ultimately as a business, you have to grow and you have to sustain itself to be able to keep everyone employed and everyone else happy. So I think ultimately it's going to come down to leads or retention. Right. But I think there's other metrics that you can put out there for people to follow that'll work, because ultimately everyone wants to do a good job. If you provide people metrics, right, on social that are important to the company, at a minimum measure them, right? Engagement, reshares, and then you take, for instance, what the company is seeing on social, share it back to your employees, right? Oh, look, this month, we posted this many photos and we had this many things, and thank you guys for chipping in. Some people are going to pick that up, and all you did was just share your information to your teammates. So I think that just the more you can share on that stuff, you pull people in, and then you figure out who's really excited about it. Those are your champions. And then you figure out how they can further engage in your process.
So I think it's interesting, because one thing that people do on social media that everybody has to understand is they stalk other people. And I mean that in a good way.
Yeah.
Because I know for my business, I use LinkedIn extremely actively. And I know people, before they contact me to do business with me, they've been following me on LinkedIn or on my podcast for 6-8 months. And by the time they contact me, they have this real sense that they know me because of the content that I've been sharing through these social media channels. And so I think that's important for leaders of construction companies to understand, is that they may not share a post and get a lead or a project directly from one post, but it's the accumulation of a variety of different posts over time that begin to build that brand and that awareness on these platforms that, again, helps people to engage with you and get to know you, which, like you were saying earlier, people like to buy from people that they know and like. And that's what social media is all about, really.
Yeah. And, what you're talking about is that transfer of trust, right? At some point, if you're authentic, you're giving them good information, they feel like they care, you care about their well-being, yep, and that you're not out there just for yourself. There's a transfer of trust. And told a long time that the top end of the funnel, right? Like, Google search or whatever is disappearing. Well, with social media, it's totally disappeared. People know so much before they contact you. So if you don't have this activity here happening, then, then you're in trouble, because you're really not going to get the inquiries that come in, because right, you just can't wait for someone to call you. They're already doing their homework.
That's interesting. It's interesting. This idea of authenticity, when you say that, that's a word that a lot of people hear. What do you mean? How can a business be authentic?
Well, I think when the leaders talk about their successes, their failures, their sort of ongoing struggles and triumphs, I think it balances out. Everyone knows, right? I've interviewed very, very successful entrepreneurs, but every single one of them will admit to me and to anyone else that they made a ton of mistakes.
Right.
And that sort of, I made mistakes, I learned from it, I know I'm going to make more mistakes. That humility is important, and it's realistic, and it connects to people. And because our issues, our challenges at any phase, right, whether you're a small business or a big business, you're on the front lines, you're the CEO, many people's challenges are very similar. Right. So when you start to talk about things that are similar to people, you develop a connection. Right. And that's really important to do that it's not going to make you sort of feel like less worthy, right? Or less competent. That, if you can talk about it in a balanced way, then it can be very productive, and it can open the lines of communication.
It's interesting. So let's say I'm a construction company. I've kind of tried LinkedIn in the past. Maybe it's just hasn't worked. What are some things that I can do in the next 30 days, let's say, if I wanted to really concentrate a little bit on social media platform, particularly since maybe my business development people aren't doing a lot of face-to-face meetings at the moment because of right now, when we're recording this, we're in the middle of the COVID crisis. So who knows, if you're listening to this, hopefully we're out of it. But let's just say we're doing a lot of remote business development. What should I do in the next 30 days to really begin to lay the foundation of a successful social media presence?
Well, I would say put a bounty on finding who the talented people in that area in your company.
Yeah.
Right. Is basically being able to pull the expertise and the full talent. It could be the person, pouring the cement, or it could be the person cleaning up. You just don't know like what their background is. Maybe their side hustle, right? Everyone has a side hustle, and they have a YouTube video with 1 million followers on how they're fixing their car. Like when you start asking people, you'll be surprised that people have these side things that haven't become full-time. And you say, hey, how would you like to take what you're doing for free, make money doing it? They're just going to jump up and down. Right. And they care about your company already. So you don't need to do anything on that regard. And they just jump in. They'll help you get up on the speed. They'll go and do 1 million things and just say, take that person and get them to recruit other people in the company that love this. And before you know it, you'll have a SWAT team that will basically spread that culture within your organization. And all you had to do is provide them the tools to do it.
Okay, so then as we've gone through the interview here, I want to bring up some action items here and some perspectives. And just if I misheard these, just correct me. But sure. The first thing that's important is that your social media interaction should be genuine, should be authentic. The second thing is that you're looking to sort of strike that balance between the personal and the business, and to blend those two in your social media presence and in what you're sharing. Did I hear that right?
Correct.
And then I brought up the point of, and because you brought up this idea of the SWAT team and finding people internally who are already comfortable in social media and using those folks, which I thought was excellent. And then I added in looking at, the people who bid the work, people who build the work, and then perhaps people who build the work, and getting that people involved in social media from different parts of your business. Are those some good strategies right there?
Absolutely. I love what you added there, when you said earlier, is having that diversity, that end to end is fantastic, because people are inherently uncertain when they start to look at a company to do business with. Okay?
Right.
It doesn't matter how good your reputation is. They will first tiptoe towards your business. And each good experience they have, they get more and more comfortable. They do a project with you first time, it goes well. Then the second one, but every time if there's a setback, they go back into uncertainty land. So, with the social media, if you're consistent and you're delivering value and you're making people feel something, right? When you give someone a plain brochure, they don't feel anything. But if you put someone in front of someone that's so enthusiastic about your company, they love it. They wake up in the morning, they jump out of bed, and they're so happy that this company is even around, and they tell everyone about it. That if you can communicate that to your end prospect by taking someone that feels that way, that understands the tool, and you give them an audience, the company wins. But I think what leaders sometimes think is they have to do everything themselves. Right? It's on me to create this leadership, whatever. You can be a coach, right? I think a lot of construction leaders do that naturally within their crews, but when they get into the digital space, they forget that they should just keep doing that. Where's your digital SWAT team, right? Who's going to jump up and then do all this stuff for you? And sure, they can sort of up your level too, but if they go and do everything and are happy and proud and they share their company's successes and you give them the ability to share some of the challenges in an honest and open way, then you know what? Everything improves.
So here's another thing to consider. I'll bounce this off of you. If I'm a GC, I got subs working for me. I'm working for an owner. I have suppliers that are supplying me. Perhaps there's all these people involved in a construction project. And in terms of, let's say, having people to get to know you, you can use those folks as leverage points in social media, tagging them on your social media posts and trying to leverage their engagement to really give a picture of what it's like to do business with you, not just from a one-dimensional perspective, but from a multi-dimensional perspective.
Exactly. So if you take your SWAT team, now formed SWAT team, and then you look at your partners to see who's doing a good job with social, and you send the SWAT team over to see their SWAT team. They talk amongst themselves and they start collaborating. Then you have two companies promoting each other to strengthen their brand, because obviously you work with vendors and partners that represent you and that you like and you trust, so it'll amplify your message further. At this point, there's a minimal investment. You're just taking the human capital that you have and reallocating it to strengthen the marketing aspect of your company, your sales aspect, your culture aspect, everything.
Yeah. So just nail that right there. Is you've got for a minimal investment. Because we're not talking about here doing paid ads or anything like that. We're just talking about organic engagement on these platforms. You can do you can do an enhancement of your marketing and of your sales and of your engagement with employees in the way that you were describing with the head of that billion-dollar construction company.
Absolutely.
Okay, interesting. So as we wrap up here, Todd, tell me a little bit more about what your company does in working with construction companies. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, we provide material to, construction companies and roofing companies. But what we like technology, we like social media. So we will work with them if they want to learn how we can help them win, right? Like these days, I mean, if you're just kind of, here's the product, okay, thank you, hi, bye, it doesn't cut it anymore, right? It's competitive. There's certain challenges in the marketplace. So the whole point of the relationship is to figure out how you can take our products, our processes, our knowledge, and win. So we're always open. Like we have a podcast, we have social media. If our clients want to know how we approach it, we teach them, create marketing material for them, whatever they need to win. So I think that aspect of social has been very, very cool. We're not a marketing company, but sometimes we act like it in terms of trying to pass that on. So I love your topic because we're really passionate about it. I think it's a huge opportunity. If you especially if you have a great culture, then you're missing out by not sharing it and inspiring people in the community. It will do a load of benefit for your own company, but also the community it will help inspire. So there's a far-reaching kind of benefit that you shouldn't hold off on just because you're a little bit, let's say you did something in the past and it didn't work out. I think this time, if you take more of a holistic approach, it's going to go just fine.
Okay, great. And so if people want to find you on the web, where can they find you?
Sure. I mean, I guess through LinkedIn, I'm always open to connecting with people that want genuine connections, not, selling me things, but we have a website, castagra.com. My podcast is specified at growth. So, I appreciate it. I love what you do. Yeah, I wish you the best with what you're doing, Eric.
Appreciate it, Todd. So I'll put the links to your LinkedIn profile and to your podcast and to your website all in the show notes. Thank you for being generous with your time and sharing with us these insights. I know this has been extremely helpful, been enlightening for me, and I know it's been helpful for my audience, and I wish you the best, Tots.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity, Eric.
Thanks a lot. Thank you for listening to this episode of Construction Genius. Hope you found that 1% of inspiration to help you in the next few days. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes, share it with other construction leaders who you think would benefit, and always remember that the show is brought to you by Kick-Ass Meetings. I've been working with construction leaders since 2004, teaching them how to run extremely effective problem-solving meetings that gets their people collaborating, taps into their creativity, and to get yourself a free copy of the Kick-Ass Meeting Report, go to www.ericanderton.com/kickassmeetings. Grab yourself that free report, read it, use it in your business. You'll find it extremely useful. And thanks again for listening.